Welcome into an all-new edition of Hashtag Not Committed on this December 18th of Monday, 2023. I'm Ben Garrett at Spirit Ben on Twitter. He's Zach Berry at Zach_Berry. We both work for the Ole Miss Spirit, OleMissSpirit.com, and Food on 3. If you sign up today, it's a good time too. You can get a sub for the low price of $1, or half off an annual. And there's never been a better time to hang out all day at the Ole Miss Spirit, OleMissSpirit.com, and Food on 3. And talk about Ole Miss stuff all day, because Ole Miss recruiting, folks, we've been trying to help you out. We've been trying to walk you down the road. We've been trying to tell you the big things that were coming. And all we got around every corner, especially from our own message board, hey, why hasn't it happened yet? Why is it? And Juice Wells is now an Ole Miss Rebel. A flip has happened in the high school ranks from a visitor that Ole Miss hosted this weekend. And now two flips, sorry. And now on this Monday, even I lose track. And now on this Monday, will it be Walter Nolen Day? That's what we're waiting on. Hey, Zach.
Morning. Yeah, we kind of spoke it into existence, right? We'll talk to Lane, see if we can claim credit. He gets the Portal King. Maybe we can get like Portal Stradamus. We talked about the new golden era of college football for Ole Miss with, the 2 10-win regular seasons. And, with the playoff expansion, Ole Miss is going to be in the thick of everything. No better time to be an Ole Miss Rebel. And then this weekend just happens. They flip Anthony Maddox from A&M. They flip Kavian Broussard from Miami. They get Tyler Barron, Tamarian McDonald, Princely Umamielen, Key Lawrence. They get Juice Wells on Sunday. I think it was a little bit of a shock to the Grove Collective that he kind of popped at that time. Not that they weren't confident, but I think there's strategery. There's some logistical things with some of these commitments. I think maybe if you told me that the Ole Miss staff maybe likes to control the news cycle, there could be some truth to that. Maybe not, but they certainly controlled the news cycle over the weekend, Ben.
They did. Juice Wells, like I said, the South Carolina wide receiver transfer, visited Ole Miss a couple of weeks ago, saw him on campus, and he commented his visit, but everything we'd heard before, during, and after, even with him no commenting, was that Ole Miss was the overwhelming favorite. And then there was some doubt last week, and that had to do with some injury concerns or questions, because he did miss most all of last year with an injury that, okay, all right. I'm giving him benefit of the doubt, man.
He'd probably tell you. I mean, I've talked to South Carolina people, and the injury happened in the first half against Georgia. I believe he was ready to go a couple weeks after, elected not to, and
part of it. That's part of it now.
Look, if he's going to get in the portal, it's his decision. That's his prerogative. Absolutely. It's fine.
Either way, there were some questions about injury stuff that maybe delayed his announcement for Ole Miss. He still didn't go visit. There were some rumblings that we were hearing that he was going to go visit now Texas and Oregon, but the writing was on the wall. What we've been telling you was true. Once he canceled that Texas visit initially and came into Ole Miss instead, and now he's officially an Ole Miss Rebel. But he wasn't the only one. Because offensive lineman that was previously committed to Miami that Zach had been telling you about, he flipped as well, as did A.J. Maddox, who was in town 2 weeks ago, formerly committed to Texas A&M, the Oak Grove 3-star quarterback, who has now completed the flip and is now an Ole Miss Rebel. So we're going to go through each and every one of these, each and every position again, because it's only right. We have to reset the board every Monday. It's Monday reset. Mm-hmm. And today, or last night, I should say, I'm on my phone, laying in bed, trying to go to sleep. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to take a gander at the hot list and just see how much it's changed since Friday, or maybe it wasn't Friday. Maybe it was Thursday or Wednesday since we really updated it. And, bud, it took me a long time last night to make some edits, because a lot has fallen off the board. A lot has gone from offered, visited to committed. A lot has gone from where they offered and visited to now offered and visited. A lot of changes. So we're going to go through all that. But before we do, tell me about both the high school players that Ole Miss has now flipped and got committed, because one thing that I feel like I've had to explain to Ole Miss fans all weekend, because I'm sure you get it too. Everywhere you go with your Ole Miss friends, this is all they want to talk about, and understandably so. It's an exciting time. It really is, because Ole Miss is pushing all in for 2024. Ole Miss truly believes, and the one thing I want national people to stop doing is saying Ole Miss is going for a playoff berth. They're not going for a playoff berth. They're going for a playoff championship. They're going for a national title. They believe they're a tournament team. They believe they're a playoff team. Right? They firmly, safely in there, barring, of course, the catastrophic. Something terrible happens, but you can't ever factor that in. On paper, this team is a preseason top 6, top 5 team. They are. Now, will they get that kind of distinction? Who knows? It's Ole Miss, and God knows if this were Auburn, oh, they'd be leading friggin' Sports Center with this, with the portal hall for Auburn, or Alabama, certainly Georgia, Clemson. But Ole Miss is the one that's dominating this space. A progressive approach from Ole Miss that they took. While others were bemoaning the fact that this is what the future was, that this is where college football was going. During COVID, Lane Kiffin was going to Canada and getting Dean Leonard, who's now still starting for the Chargers, and Tavius Robinson, who's playing a lot for the Ravens. Next year, he really started to dabble in the portal. Oh, I forgot about Kenny Yeboah, the one-year transfer from Temple, the second most important option for Ole Miss in that first year in COVID with Elijah Moore. So everyone else was still trying to feel it out and see what everybody else was doing, and Ole Miss went, all right, we're going to take our own approach to this. So they deserve a lot of credit. And if you've been paying attention, which most of national media hadn't, local people have, local fans who watch this show, listen to this show, check out the Ole Miss Spirit, they understand why it is so hot today. They were not caught flat-footed while some national media types like, what is going on at Ole Miss? I love it, to put it succinctly. I love it when a plan comes together. This is a plan that Lane Kiffin put in place come year one, once the portal stuff hit. And yes, there has been a de-emphasization, if that's even a word. There has been a de-emphasizing of high school recruiting. They are much more selective. I think I counted 17, and I'm bad at math, so I'm probably wrong. 17 high school commits. And quite frankly, after Maddox, it might be less than that. And after Maddox,
I think that's right.
Okay. Well, after the 2 that they committed this weekend, I think they might be done for the most part high school-wise, because Kejuan Lacey went to Missouri. So tell me about these 2 players, but also Ole Miss fan, no, this isn't – because I've seen it in mentions on Twitter. I've seen it on the message board. Well, Ole Miss is doing what Deion did last year. That could not be more misguided. That could not be more incorrect. That is not what Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss are doing. Ole Miss are doing what Deion and them thought they were doing. They were replicating the model of Lane Kiffin, and it didn't work, because this has been years of work and years of planning. They build through the portal, and people keeps talking about, well, when's Lane Kiffin leaving? And blah, blah. This is year 5. Ole Miss has never been in a better place. At some point, acknowledge the fit. It's a good one. It makes sense. And none of this is Ole Miss like back when y'all tried to hang them for 2013 with Laramie and Rob and Laquan. No more. This is just Ole Miss. The plan came together, and it's working. So tell me about the high school. Sorry for that long soapbox this morning to get started, but now tell me about the high school players. Even though they have been de-emphasized, they addressed 2 of the biggest needs for Ole Miss in their very select high school class.
Yeah, I think first let's talk AJ Maddox. Talked with him after he received the offer from Ole Miss after winning the 7A state championship at Vaught Hemingway. Charlie Weiss Jr., Lane Kiffin, most of the staff were there to see him. And I think that we've talked about this a lot, Ben. The staff is very big on in-person evaluations and senior evaluations when they like a certain prospect. But maybe hey, we want to see, hey, we've seen the junior tape. We like it. We've seen them in a camp setting. We think there's something there. Let's see how they do as a senior. Let's see if they take the next step. Let's see if they get, a little bigger in the weight room. Let's see, some progression in your skill set. And AJ Maddox did that. He was outstanding as a senior, led Oak Grove to the state championship, and Ole Miss offered quickly after he won the state championship. Charlie Weiss led the charge there. Lane Kiffin, he loves the offense. He thinks that it's a really good fit for him. His parents are big fans of the staff. We know about the connections with his father, Anthony Maddox, played at Delta State with Pete Golding. So Pete was a big part of it as well. But the offensive, the potential for him in this offense was, I think, what got his attention. He told Chad Simmons, hey, I get to play for Charlie Weiss and Lane Kiffin. Like, that's what put Ole Miss up top. He said he idolized Kiffin. Like he said, that was one of the guys he idolized growing up because of the offensive mind. But yeah, I think the staff has told him that they've seen some little bit of Jaden Daniels in his game, and you watch the tape, and I'm not a scout or someone that is going to evaluate somebody at that high of a level. Hey, the guy that won the Heisman Trophy, yeah, we think you can be that guy. I think that was probably something that really perked his ears up. And look, you watch the tape, he does have a little bit of Jaden Daniels in him. He's very elusive. He creates when plays break down. He keeps his eyes downfield, can make all the throws. I think that he's someone that's going to benefit from a deep quarterback room at Ole Miss. He will be able to arrive. There won't be a ton of pressure to step in and be a backup right away or to compete. He will have some time to get acclimated, learn the system, because that's the biggest thing, right? Knowing the offense. You saw Jackson Dart in year 1 to year 2, the difference, being more comfortable, more decisive, more confident in his decisions. I think that's huge. I think that was a huge part of why we didn't really see a lot of Spencer Sanders. It was only emergency time. There were some packages, but it was pretty basic. I think there was some concerns there with his grasp of the offense. And look, I haven't seen the playbook, but I mean, I imagine it's pretty extensive, and it's probably a pretty thick read, and something that is going to take some time to learn. So I think it's great. We've talked about being on schedule with quarterbacks. They've got Walker Howard ready to take over at any moment, and Austin Simmons is right behind him. And it's kind of in a similar space where Austin Simmons knows I'm still a young guy. Like, he reclassified. He knows that he's got some time. Same with Maddox. I think he understands the system. And sure, you want to go in and play as a true freshman, but as a quarterback, that's extremely difficult. As we joke all the time, Ben, Trevor Lawrence has ruined it for everybody where, hey, I can do what Trevor Lawrence did. Well, Trevor Lawrence is kind of a unicorn. So I love the pickup. I love the arm talent and the athleticism, and it doesn't hurt that his younger brother is a top 100 prospect as a defensive lineman. Kavian Broussard, the other flip. Sam Spiegelman's seen him in person several times. He loves the potential there. Huge frame, 6'6", 6'7", about 250, 260. Tons and tons and tons of room on that frame to build. I think that's the thing that John Garrison and Pete Golding saw the most is, hey, this is a dude where, hey, you can't teach height, Ben. You can't coach a guy up to grow taller. So the frame is there, I think, for a right tackle in the future. Maybe a left tackle. He's got some good feet. I think you work on some technique with him, get him in the weight room with Savage, and there's some potential down the line as he joins Jude Foster and John Wayne Oliver, 2 guys that are big physical dudes that can really get downhill and block you in the run game. But yeah, they're going to be selective with these offensive linemen because I do anticipate more offensive linemen getting in the portal. And like you said, with Kiffin, he loves to build through the portal and get older, experienced dudes in that locker room. I think the one thing that we don't talk about enough as we transition here, Ben, I think that with the leadership of guys like Jax Dart, Jared Ivey, Jordan Watkins, I'm probably leaving out some dudes, but like those older guys that have been in the program for several years, getting more experienced guys in to buy in, understand the culture, it's only going to help the younger guys. When you see these guys that have been there, done that in the SEC, the ACC, the Big Ten, wherever, I think that it is only going to help matriculate that culture down for years to come, where guys are learning from, yeah, they're starters, they're good, but also they do everything. I know it's cliche, but they go about their business the right way. They handle stuff off the field. They are leaders in practice, not just on the field on Saturday. So, yeah, it's all calculated for a reason. But yeah, being selective in the high school ranks is very. It's a strategic approach to how they build this roster. And look, right now with what they've got, even without Walter Nolen, this is a preseason top 10 team that has gone from being a dark horse in the SEC to being a real contender.
They should be getting treated as the team who
They could get
has the
first place votes.
they deserve to be treated as the team that has produced the third most wins in the SEC behind only Alabama and Georgia the last handful of years. And that's the truth. And now their roster, at least from a very basic level on paper, looks the part. And I'm telling you, if it were LSU, LSU struggled to really figure out this space, this NIL model that as it's currently constructed. Ole Miss, however, has been very, like I said, progressive and very aggressive in terms of not only their targeted approach, but planning out a long term or mapping out a long term plan with multi year transfers. They took advantage. I don't know what's going to happen because last week, the NCAA, there was a temporary restraining order put on their ruling that two-time transfers have to sit and get waivers, and now they're all eligible. You saw Brandon Murray for Ole Miss basketball playing on Saturday. December 27th was going to be a ruling that was going to change college athletics again. But now the NCAA, of course, because this is what they do, they're nothing but cowards. That's why you never, ever, ever, ever cooperate with the NCAA. It was Ole Miss's first mistake in its NCAA investigative case. Just tell them to kick rocks. They can't do shit unless you voluntarily hand them shit over. And I've come to the conclusion that a whole lot of how Ole Miss has got so ugly back then is Ross Stewart just got pissed off that he found the massage shit in Hughes' cell phone records. He told Hugh, he just don't let me be surprised by anything. And that surprised him and it pissed him off. And I think that dictated everything else. So in a lot of ways, Ole Miss has learned from that past, right? Not that they're skirting NCAA rules, but what they're doing is aggressively and progressively tackling the space and accepting it for what it is. It doesn't matter if you like it or not. It doesn't matter if you're like, well, I don't want to be paying players now. I don't want to have to contribute monthly to the Grove Collective to watch my football team win on Saturdays, on game day Saturdays. It doesn't matter how you feel about it. Even Ole Miss people that have their hands on the levers of this and pulling the levers of power for Ole Miss's decision making in the portal, a lot of them don't like it. It is immaterial, your personal feelings toward it. If you don't adapt, you will die in this new landscape. And Ole Miss has not only adapted, but thrived. And a lot of that has to do, what are you doing over there? What is that? What are you doing?
It's one of my favorite quotes from Moneyball. Adapt or die.
Adapt or die. And they have adapted. And they really set for a lot of different collectives out there, for comparable schools that are trying to punch up above their weight and get into that next tier, they've really laid the roadmap, but also they continue to come up with new creative ways to exploit this market and this model. And one of those ways is through the retention of current rosters who, again, I don't know what's going to happen, but they saw it as, okay, well, then why are we focusing on high schoolers who we sign them up and there's no guarantee that they're even going to be here in 6 months? They could leave if they want to. Almost actually had Braxton Myers do that. He went through spring practices, and yet he ends up going and becoming a Purdue Boilermaker, which is fine. Why focus on that when you can focus on a targeted approach? Jackson Dart is now entering his third year as Ole Miss's starting quarterback. He hasn't announced anything, and maybe he surprises us all because he's being very coy about it. I don't think that's the truth. The overwhelming sentiment over there is that he's going to be back. So a third-year starting quarterback. Jordan Watkins is in his third year as a starter at Ole Miss at wide receiver. Quinn Shon's a third-year starting running back. Jeremy James, there's been talk about the NFL, him leaving for the NFL for 3 years. He's still here and probably coming back for a super senior year. Caleb Warren, same thing. Caden Priestcorn coming back for his second year. On and on and on. It's the same type of roster construction, at least on paper, as it used to be. Multi-year starters at big positions that you could latch on to. They're just transfers. That's the difference. But it's a smart approach. It's not like Ole Miss just is chasing hired guns every offseason. And that's where I really push back against, oh, well, Ole Miss and Lane are just doing what Deion did last year. You haven't been paying attention if that's your takeaway from this. No, you should go, wow, Lane and Ole Miss, they got their shit together before everybody else did. A lot of schools did, including schools that have far better resources and more than they do.
And I'll say this too, and he's not going to discriminate. against a portal versus a high school guy. Kiffin will play whoever he thinks is ready and can contribute and help the offense or the defense. But he's not afraid to go get someone like a Dayton Wade from Western Kentucky. If you've earned your spot, you're going to play. Kiffin does not care. If you know your offense, if you know the defense, if you know where you're going, you know how to line up, you make plays, you're going to play. So
the only problem with that, though, Zach, the only problem with that is
people's
I
feelings
know
get
what
hurt.
you say, and I know what Kiffin says and the words that come out of his mouth, but actions speak louder, and he doesn't trust freshmen like he does, or give the runway to freshmen, true freshmen, for mistakes as he does veterans. And that's okay. That's a philosophical thing. That's something that, you have to have your core tenets as a football coach, and one of his is I trust my guys, my hand-picked veteran guys. There's a reason JJ Henry is gone today and Braylon Brown is gone today and Arell White's throwing a fit today. It's because he trusts this lane veterans from the portal, and that's who he leans on. I mean, his rotations are very small. You're talking about 30-ish guys that he runs out there.
Mm-hmm.
So to break into that, I mean, Aiden Williams, if he couldn't do it, and I said that this time last year, if Aiden Williams, if we're talking about how he didn't make an impact in year one, we have a bigger conversation to have. But it's not a negative conversation. It just means that it's kind of like cemented what I thought, that Lane Kiffin, his preferred style of roster building and roster management in 2023, which is a progressive approach and was much needed, and has allowed Ole Miss to really not just punch above his weight, but stay in that weight class, have staying power in that weight class, and now go compete for a title in 2024. It's obviously proven to be the right one. But that's what I'm talking about as far as the targeted approach to high school, because he doesn't trust him. Now, a Quinshine can come in here and ball out. Sun Terrain had his moments, but look, if you're looking for impact, no disrespect at all to AJ Maddox, to Broussard, no disrespect to those guys, but it's coming with Juice Wells. It's coming with potentially Walter Nolen. But before we jump to the transfer stuff, real quick, because I want to go through this whole transfer portal list. I mean, I cleaned it up like crazy Sunday night. What should Ole Miss fans make of the whole Narelle White decommitment? Delete the tweet, delete the decommitment, re-decommit. Because what I've heard from talking to a number of sources is, look, it's an emotional response he's had, and the coaches are going to handle it because he's been all in on Ole Miss. It seemingly came out of nowhere, which is very hard to do in this day and age in recruiting.
Yeah, I talked to Norrell yesterday. All week he was in Hattiesburg practicing, getting ready for the Mississippi Alabama game. He told me, hey, I'll be pretty locked in down here. We'll talk after the game. So yeah, I mean, we were just chatting yesterday morning, afternoon, just, how the game was, how he felt, the week went with all the commits, and just kind of, hey, what's the latest? Because like you said, he's been locked in. I haven't really had a reason to talk with Norrell. But yeah, he was talking, oh yeah, we're working on Stonka Burnside. We're trying to get him to join us and yada yada. And then I get a text like, hey, what happened with Norrell White? Why did he decommit? I was like, well, news to me. I didn't know that. Went to his Twitter, went to his Instagram, nothing. So deleted. Then 20 minutes later, give or take, I don't know. I can't remember the timeline. Full disclosure, I was wrapping Christmas presents in my office. And then I get a couple texts and he tweets it again. So I talked to a couple people. I talked to, some staff members. They were like, hey, we're just going to call him. We'll figure it out. No big deal. So yeah, a teenager being a teenager, who knows, but assured he is still a commit. I talked to Patrick Broomfield this morning. He said that he talked to Norrell last night. He said everything's good. So yeah, I don't see any reason to make anything of it. I didn't want to. I just reported that there was a tweet. I didn't report that he had decommitted. I was trying to, get the skinny on that. So yeah, for the folks that don't really kind of know some inside baseball here, On3 has a staff full of news desk people that will run breaking news stories and things like that. They don't know. They don't know Norrell White. They don't know the background to his recruitment. So it's not their fault that they ran a story that he decommitted. He posted it. mean, it's directly from the source. So you can't get mad at folks for reporting it, because that's literally what it said. It said, hey, he tweeted that he decommitted. So, how else could you think it happened? But yeah, just talking with people, everything's fine. I mean, again, like, he was decked out in Ole Miss gear at the Mississippi Alabama game. He was openly recruiting guys to try to join the Ole Miss class. And we talked to him, a couple weeks ago when he was on
That
his official visit.
that's
And
all I
they
could think
talked
about.
about,
That's all I could like see.
yeah,
You and I saw him and Jeffrey Rush and Preston Broomfield walking from the south end zone for breakfast to close out their official visit to bowl practice. And Norell's in a real true camo jacket, hanging out,
yeah,
just messing around with Jeffrey and Preston Broomfield and talking about how we're getting
Patrick.
this and we're getting that and doing this and that. It was an emotional, but again, when it happens, you have to take it seriously. It's the words directly from the player. It's the words directly from the source. So I get why the
Yeah.
news desk did that, but I do think this is something to monitor. My only apprehension, and first of all, everything you said is right on the money in regards to it's an emotional decision for him, and it's understandable for him. He also can play cornerback, and I think he wants to play wide receiver. So Ole Miss has been recruiting him as a wide receiver. Well, now if you look at the position group, look how crowded it is wide receiver. It makes sense. It makes plenty of sense for him to react that way. And there, of course, because when this does, there's of course a chance some team swoops in and overvalues and really dumps a good NIL package and say, hey, well, Ole Miss has got you as the seventh option right now. We'll bring you in. You'll be number 2, 3, 4. Maybe State tries to re-engage, but at the end of all things, it'd be hard for me to believe that Norell White this far. I mean, Wednesday
Well,
is
yeah.
signing day. Wednesday is the first
I
of 2 signing days.
I had some people ask me, they're like, well, did the Juice Wells thing scare him off? I don't think so. I mean, I've talked to Norell. He plays wide receiver. I was never even remotely close to as good as Norell was, but as a wide receiver, your mindset is, I'm the baddest dude out here. You can't cover me. I'm going to catch everything. So he's confident. I don't think Juice Wells had anything to do with anything. I mean, if you look at it, the loaded wide receiver room that Ole Miss is going to have in 2024, it's a good chance that every single one of those guys are gone in 2025.
That is true.
So, I mean, no, I don't think that was it. I don't think he saw, well, shit, Ole Miss got Juice Wells. Well, like, I can't go there now. Like, no,
Well,
that's not how these dudes operate.
when I was told emotional decision, the first thing I thought was, oh, okay, I get it. But you're right. When you look at the projection, Trey Harris is going to be gone after next year, the national title win. Sorry. Dayton Wade is leaving this year. I'm putting it all in my head at one point. Jordan Watkins, it'll be his last year. He'll have exhausted eligibility. Yeah. I mean, they could essentially be turning over a whole new wide receiver relief the very next year.
Mm-hmm.
And he would obviously be a main benefactor of that, you would assume. But the question is with high school receivers, high school players in general under Lane Kiffin, how do you earn the trust? How do you get there? How do you get um, that ability to play through mistakes and get the leash? Because Lane has proven at Ole Miss through almost 5 years now at Ole Miss. He's never stayed at anywhere else longer. Someone on our board, God bless him, a Florida fan of theirs, Florida friend, a friend of theirs who loves Florida, was talking to them about how next year they were coming after Lane. At some look what all Ole Miss has survived as far as job openings, and because of national media and the laziness of their narratives, he's a candidate at every big job. He never considered or was considered for Texas A&M. He absolutely considered Auburn, but
Yeah.
as long as his family is here and his daughter is at Ole Miss, he has real life considerations now. He is rooted here. He is settled here. So until he gives you reason to believe, because the proof is in the pudding, he has not left. He has had ample opportunity. He's been nothing. He said the right things. He's done the right things. I don't think Lane Kiffin's going anywhere as long as his kids are comfortable in Oxford. And quite frankly, Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin are just a fit. And that's why it's working so well.
Yeah.
But now that we've rolled through those high schoolers, sorry.
Well, no, I was just going to say, like, the relationship between a head coach and an AD has always been crucial for success.
That's true.
But now with NIL, the relationship between a head coach, an AD, and a collective is paramount. And I mean, couldn't be a better fit. Walker Jones and the people over there, they're simpatico with Kiffin. Like they are on the same page. It's obviously working. I mean, I know the reputation for the Grove Collective since day one has been, man, they are organized. They know what the hell they're doing. They got good contacts. You know, they've got a good thing rolling. Like
And most importantly,
the
they do.
website.
Most
Huh?
importantly, they do what they say they're going to do.
Yeah, because there are people out there that make promises they don't keep, and I think that's huge. But yeah, I mean, it's set up for success now, and with the playoff expanding to 12, why do you need to leave? Like, I mean, maybe Alabama, maybe, but I don't even. Would Kiffin want to follow Saban? I mean, I'm sure he has that mindset that he could be better than Saban, but I mean, shit,
He
come
would
on.
fall, but
But like that's it though. Like like people mention Florida all the time. Like just because it's in Florida, that's a weird ass job.
yeah.
Steve Spurrier and Urban Meyer. That's it. Only people that have won big there.
What's the
It's a tough
benefit
job now.
to leaving for Florida? That would be my question for him. You got to put yourself in his shoes. In the old decision making, like Tommy Tuberville, for example. Tommy left because Ole Miss wouldn't build him a practice facility and a new weight room. He was all upset about the facilities. Well, the facilities are essentially the same. Does Ole Miss have the resources as Florida when it's all pulling in one direction? No. But Florida is not pulling in one direction. It has been built at Ole Miss, and it's all been built under the likeness of Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin, his dog, is in commitment graphics with Juice Wells, a decorated transfer from South Carolina. And it's not just because his name is Juice. You'll see Juice popping up everywhere. His daughter runs his social media account. She also runs the Juice Kiffin account. There's so much ingrained as far as Lane Kiffin and his own personal experience in what Ole Miss has become that it's quite naive to think that it wouldn't be a significant uprooting of his life as it's currently constructed to leave for somewhere else. It's not like the old days. Oh yeah, you leave little Ole Miss to go to Florida because they've got the facilities, they've got the money, they get the biggest recruits because they're
But they
Florida. It
don't.
recruits itself. I know it recruits it. Back in the day, it recruits itself. It's Florida. You don't need any of that anymore. Ole Miss is Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin is Ole Miss, and if he stays on this current trajectory, he will go down as the greatest coach in Ole Miss history, especially if he pulls off a freaking national title, which is not unrealistic to talk about for 2024. That's quite literally what they're loading up for. That's what they believe in
Yeah.
that building. And it's not just every year when Ole Miss would go into the year with Zach Stout and Randall Mackey and Barry Brunetti competing for quarterback saying, hey, man, we're going for a national title. It's not like that. No. This team is legitimately built to compete for a national title, and Lane Kiffin is primarily responsible. It's his entire vision. The progressiveness and the aggressiveness in the portal reflects its head coach, the philosophy of its head coach. It's a perfect fit. And 2023, we all thought, we said it over and over again, we'll continue to say, we all thought that once kids were allowed to be paid, that it would just allow the rich to get richer. That is not what has happened. It has allowed the Ole Misses of the world to
Yeah.
pull even or to be in a
Look
more
at
even competitive space with those blue bloods that you were always worried about poaching your head coach. It's just a different, the culture, the game itself, the level of play, the quality of play, the parity, everything about this sport, how recruiting is covered. This used to be the time where, my God, I would be at Nick Brazel's. I would drive to South Panola, be sitting there waiting to see if he'd said yes about Ole Miss or State. Tony Connor, if he put on a Ole Miss hat on National Signing Day, we would fly to Chicago for Laquan's announcement. We would do all of these things. But that's for guys that could transfer 1 year with no penalty. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's more important for us to be up there on campus when Juice Wells can no comment us going up to the south end zone, which again, no comment all you want. That I'm not knocking that at all. But the fact that that is what we do now, the whole thing is different. I just want people to understand that. And what should give you solace and what should give you excitement and pride about Ole Miss as compared to previous years or its history was aggressive and progressive in the space that has changed college football. And that's why they're a leading program
Yeah.
for other schools to model themselves after. And State fans, from the look of it on Elite Dogs, because I've been seeing the screenshots on Twitter too, and on my message board, and I think on Steve's stupid board, though, it gets brought over to our message board too. Not that board. The board's not stupid. Steve is stupid. So I want to correct that. Steve sucks. That board's fine. It's just fans. Anyway, they are going through it right now. They really are. They're really hoping KJ Jefferson comes and transfers in, but They want a little piece of the action. They hired Dollar General brand Lane Kiffin, talking about scoring from far. It's just a different time. You don't have to worry about, oh God, I hope Ole Miss wins the Egg Bowl this year. And man, if our boys can just make it to the Music City, we'll have fun in Nashville. Title time, baby. Chasing titles. That's all I wanted. I want people to understand it's just different. And Ole Miss has been aggressive in this space. All right. Is it Walter Nolen Day?
I think so. I think here's my theory. I think Nolen was potentially yesterday, and then when Juice Wells decided to go ahead and commit, just my theory, I think Lane Kiffin told Nolen to hold off so he can kind of rule that news cycle on Sunday and Monday. I mean, look, whenever Walter Nolen makes his announcement, it's going to control the news cycle, regardless. So, I mean, Ole Miss and come to the SIP and, what all that was trending all over the weekend on Twitter. Juice Wells announces on Sunday, everybody's talking about Juice Wells, Juice and Juice and all the NIL opportunities for Juice Wells in Oxford. I mean, the guy already has an NIL deal with the dog food company. I mean, come on, like this is just so easy. Yeah, somebody needs to already be working on a commercial, like get a screenplay ready for a commercial for Juice and Juice. But that's just kind of my theory. Was the staff just told Walter to, hey, like do it on Monday, possibly do it on Tuesday. They want to keep Ole Miss in the forefront of the news. Or on the flip side, just Walter, just maybe he wanted to get home and relax. He was in Oxford all weekend. I'm assuming he went back to Olive Branch with his family. Probably just wanted to sit down, maybe watch some NFL, relax. I'm assuming he's got everything done from an edit, video, whatever, however he's going to announce it. We'll see. That's another interesting logistical thing to consider. How will it be announced? Pete Thamel broke the Juice Wells news yesterday. That was kind of shocking. Normally these guys
Here's my question. Did he, what constitutes breaking things these days? Because we told him on Saturday, I reported Juice Wells, Ole Miss was going to land Juice Wells by as early as tomorrow, which tomorrow was Sunday, and Walter Nolen wouldn't be close behind. We put it in stories. We talked about it on podcasts. But you don't see anybody.
Let me rephrase.
Please.
He broke it on Twitter.
Okay.
So like he was the first guy to go out and say, hey, Juice Wells is now, which I think he talked to him. I think
that was less about me being critical of Zach than Zach and I texting each other yesterday going, what the hell, man? On 3. Where you at? Give us some love, man. What the hell? Pump us up. I'm sorry. Continue.
Well, yeah, I mean, Pete knows his stuff. There's a reason he has almost 300,000 people following him. But yeah, I mean, news, South Carolina transfer wide receiver tells ESPN's, it's Mark Schleybaugh that he's transferring to Ole Miss. So yeah, everybody knew it was coming. I mean, I'm pretty sure all 3 Ole Miss recruiting sites said the same thing we did. So, I mean, it wasn't news to any Ole Miss people. It was just, Pete Thamel did it. I mean, I figured it would be, Hayes Fawcett would do an edit or something like that.
Well, see, the funny thing for me is we report that, hey, this is what we believe is going to happen. And then it happens. But up until a Pete Thamel says it, sorry, buddy. We don't have that clout with our people. They don't care enough. Hey, Ole Miss is going to get these guys. Well, and then all you get for the next 6 hours, 7 hours, 8 hours is, hey, has it happened yet? Well, where is it? Oh, Pete Thamel. Wait, I'm waiting for confirmation from who? The kid, I guess. Okay, fine. Then he gave it to Mark Schleybaugh. But the point is, what we're telling you at the Ole Miss Spirit, OleMissSpirit.com, affiliate 1-3, that's what you need to be paying attention to. That's all we're saying. You don't have to give us love. You don't have to give us credit, but you do, if you will, have to sign up at the Ole Miss Spirit, OleMissSpirit.com, affiliate 1-3. Because if you sign up for a sub today, you can get one for as low as $1 and half off an annual sub. And when you go there, you'll see me and Zach and Chuck and Jake and Bradley Sow and Walker Jones is on there. Ben Mintz is on there, just hanging out, talking Ole Miss and Ole Miss recruiting. Come hang out with us at the Ole Miss Spirit, OleMissSpirit.com, and affiliate on 3. And if you haven't already, subscribe, rate, review this Talk of Champions podcast network in iTunes. Just simply search Talk of Champions wherever you get your podcasts. If you only listen to the flagship or this podcast, hashtag not committed, hit that line, red and blue smoke, whatever it might be, doesn't matter. Just search Talk of Champions, though, and leave us a 5-star review. It'll help us out a lot. So I want to play a new game here on hashtag not committed. I almost said the flagship. It's called Fair Foul, and this is as simple as it is. All right. I'm going to go through this transfer hot list we have at the Ole Miss Spirit, OleMissSpirit.com, and affiliate on 3 that I cleaned up last night. And I'm going to tell you position by position, because they're my words. They're not Zach. This is my editing. Y'all can see it right here. Here it is. So my editing of the hot list. You simply tell me if my take on that position is fair or foul. Are you ready?
Okay, let's do it.
Quarterback. Ole Miss is likely done at quarterback after committing 2024 Oak Grove, Mississippi 3-star A.J. Maddox. Fair or foul?
Fair.
Running back. Lancaster, Texas 4-star Keywan Lacey announced for Missouri on last Thursday night. And we believe running back is a back burner issue now. Fair or foul?
Fair.
Fair. Wide receiver. What was once a crowded position on our transfer portal hot list is now down to 2 names. Juice Wells from South Carolina, who committed on Sunday, and Chris Brazell from Tulane. Will Shepard has gone to Colorado. Other names. I don't think Ole Miss, if it's not Chris Brazell, I think Ole Miss might be kind of done at wide receiver after Juice.
Fair.
What do we think about Chris Brazell, though? What do you think? Where did that come from? Was that like a thumbs up? Did you see that?
It's from. Oh yeah, I did see that. Maybe it's seeing me do it.
Whoa.
That's what. Oh, that's what it is.
Wow.
Artificial intelligence.
AI is going to kill us all, man. Terminator was right. All right. Chris Brazell from Tulane. Do you buy him as it's not buy or sell. So fair or foul, Chris Brazell is still a pressing Ole Miss target right now in the portal. Hey, it's foul.
Foul.
He's one of Ben's dudes. I really liked him. I went down the rabbit hole when his name popped up, when I heard his name from a source, and I started watching some. I like that kid. But Juice Wells in the slot. Oh,
he'll just play everywhere.
Yeah,
I feel like he's gonna be like a jumbo Elijah Moore. Like they'll just move him all over the place.
Yeah, absolutely. Trey Harris is just gonna feast in 1-on-1s, man, by himself out at like where's
and then don't Deion Smith's over here like, hey, I'm gonna be here too.
The best of all of them. The best of all of them. Yeah, just hanging out on the other side.
Wow.
Tight end, we have one listed on the hot list, Daquan Wright from Virginia Tech. We'd been hearing that he was coming in for a visit last weekend. He did not show up. I don't believe Ole Miss is really – tight end just seems like on the back burner for me. So Daquan Wright, I almost took him off. Fair or foul, tight end is a position we really need to be paying attention to right now.
I'd say it's fair. I think return to Priest Corn. Javante Connor stayed. He got out of the portal. And they've got Dylan Hip signing on Wednesday. So, yeah.
And Hudson Wolf is coming. They'll get a tight end, I think. But as far as Daquan Wright, that one just – for a while there, it felt like one of those where if it doesn't happen as it's happening, then it's not going to. Does that make sense? There's like a 4-day window where you're sometimes in the portal.
Once he didn't show, it was like, okay, they moved on.
So should I remove him, fair or foul?
I would remove him.
All right, I'll remove him. Offensive line is down like wide receiver to only a handful of names. Jerquan Scott from Southern Miss is committed. We've got Davion Carter, Fernando Carmona, and Chase Basantis underneath. Fair or foul. Here's the good way to put it. Fair or foul. The next offensive line commitment for Ole Miss, if there is one out of the portal, will be a name that is currently not listed on our hot list. I think that's fair.
Yeah, there's gonna be more dudes getting in.
Yeah, and I just
as these bowl games wrap up. Yeah, there's gonna be more. There's gonna be another wave.
Now, if I get pie on my face about it, that's totally okay. But like, I haven't heard anything on Davion Carter since it was hot for like 2 days, 2 weeks ago. Fernando Carmona.
Davion Carter, he committed to Texas Tech.
There we go. Fernando Carmona. I should have.
He's gone.
He's gone. Yeah. I reached out to him. Ole Miss offered him the day he got in.
Yeah.
And I reached out and it was immediate, like, yeah, man, let's talk. And then it was ghost. And that told me enough, because these
he's
kids.
He's down to 4 schools.
All right.
Let me double check and make. Oh, no. He committed to Arkansas.
So Fernando Carmona, man, I got to do this in real time. It's going to be someone not listed on the hot list. We've already established that. I mean, we don't
It's
even
hard. It's hard to keep up with all this.
We're doing our best, man.
The portal combat is intense.
It's intense. Defensive line, Samuel Akunaloa from Pittsburgh. He hasn't committed anywhere, but Princely Umanmielen is committed from Florida. Walter Nolen from Texas A&M. We expect that to happen as early as today. Trey Moore, that's not going to happen. Tyler Brown from Tennessee, Barron from Tennessee committed over the weekend. Are they done fair or foul after having committed Princely Umanmielen, the edge from Florida, on the defensive line? Walter Nolen potentially as early as today from Texas A&M, the number one player in the portal, and Tyler Barron. Are they done with defensive line? Fair.
I think so. If and when Nolen commits, I mean, that's a loaded room. I mean, top 5 across the country, top 1 or 2 in the SEC. I mean, you got 2 guys that PFF, Pro Football Focus loves, Umanmielen and Barron.
They're 1 and 2 in our portal rankings on 3 as far as edge.
Yeah. And then you put Nolen in the middle next to Pegues. Dude.
If it was any other team, any other insignia on the side of the helmet, the love they would be getting. Oh, is Ole Miss the sleeper favorite for LSU?
I'm just saying. It's already starting to happen. There are people that are starting to perk their ears up. I mean,
good.
If you didn't see it yesterday, I put it on the board. I put it on Twitter. I talked with Andy Staples for an extended period of time yesterday, and we were talking about it. Like it's getting real. If you're, this isn't like hyperbole from an Ole Miss fan site. Like this is a real deal roster that has a legit shot at 10 or 11 wins next year.
I really think Ole Miss could be pretty settled for Christmas and then say, all right, first of the year, we'll see you back and we'll try to do it again. I think they could honestly.
Well, and we're not even mentioning Pooh Paul. I mean, I think the linebacker position. That's going to be a strength of this defense now.
Yeah. Linebacker of all positions. What a happy day. Ole Miss is going to have a strong position. Like you're not going to go into, the linebackers suck.
Somewhere,
like 5 years.
Somewhere Hugh Freeze just caught a cramp and fell down in a hallway.
Somewhere Mike Juarez felt a cold chill on the back of his neck. All right, linebacker.
Butterfly effect.
Chris Paul, committed from Arkansas, the number 1 linebacker transfer in the portal. Fair or foul, Ole Miss adds another linebacker between now and the first of the year.
I'd say fair.
Oh.
Somebody that's not in the portal that I think will get in the portal.
Cornerback.
Can we please get Pooh Paul some kind of NIL deal with like a sewage company or like a plumbing company in Oxford?
No.
That's amazing.
That would be good. My buddy CJ Hill here in New Albany, he opened a plumbing company, and he painted his truck. He sold it for a lot of money. He painted his truck. It was somebody sitting on a toilet up to the window and then his head.
So it was like the crooner on I Think You Should Leave.
And I guess so. I haven't seen Do You Think You Should Leave? And buddy, when I say just a brilliant marketing play, everybody loved it. He was like the plumber of New Orleans. He was great. All right, sorry. Went off on the tangent there.
Look, I'm just trying to help Pooh build a brand. He told us that he prefers to go by Pooh. It's the same deal with Stonka.
Then all you need to do is come up with a corner of Vaught Hemingway Stadium, a kid's corner, and call it Pooh Corner. All right.
The diaper changing station brought to you by Pooh Paul.
By Pooh Paul. Welcome to Pooh Corner, the kids section of Vaught Hemingway. Cornerback, Taz Nicholson's committed from Illinois. There are other names, but the one we need to be paying attention to that came up late last night, I actually heard about it and thought I was breaking some news in our recruiting thread on the Ole Miss Spirit, OleMissSpirit.com, available on 3. A name to watch out for, DeCamerion Richardson, the cornerback from Mississippi State. I think that's happening. Fair or foul? Do you think that's happening as well? And sure enough, go back to look at the thread again, and Zach had already posted about it. So didn't even beat my friend. Didn't even beat my coworker. Fair or foul? Ole Miss adds
Fair.
Camerion, yeah.
I'm trying to find a pronunciation. I don't know if it's DeCamerion or DeCameron, but either way, I think Ole Miss. I did speak with a source late last night, and it's expected to pop. I mean,
that's a plug and play starter. I mean, he was the best And I'm not
He
just
was
saying
great. He was great opposite Emmanuel Forbes, and everybody was like, "Oh, well, that's why." And then after Forbes went to the NFL, he was still great. So
he's an NFL cornerback. So
um,
now, where is the weak spot going to be? Every year that we've been on this earth, you and I, going into an Ole Miss football season, we've been able to say, well, yeah, if their so and so can be good.
yeah,
And yet, I go into 2024 never being more optimistic, have never been more optimistic about what Ole Miss football can be. And a lot of that has to do with where is the weakness? Now, depth is always a problem. Injuries, you can't predict them. But on paper, there is not a position group. I was going to say maybe corner because DeAndre Prince and Zamari Walton are out of eligibility, the two starting cornerbacks for Ole Miss this year. And again, Lane Kiffin only really trusts about 30-ish guys as far as rotation. So not a lot of guys play. DeMarco Williams is gone. He transferred. He played a lot this year. Deshaun Gaddy's undecided about whether or not he's coming back. On and on and on. I was talking myself into being worried about cornerback. And then last night, get word that DeCamerion Richardson from Mississippi State, the cornerback, their best cornerback, a plug-and-play starter, is now, I think Ole Miss is now the favorite to land him. So, fair or foul, Ole Miss lands Cameron Richardson. You said fair? Fair? Yes, fair. I've been trying to get you to do a foul. I really thought I got you a foul for linebacker.
I'm waiting on you to do it, but you haven't brought it up yet.
But, well, ask me a fair foul then.
Ole Miss lands Stonka Burnside. I say foul.
Oh, Zach. No, we've lost Zach. Oh, no. We flipped.
I think it was all set up. No doubt in my mind. I talked with the national source the week Jeff Lebby was hired. And I think when I talked to him before and after, and I think when Lebby was hired, just because of his reputation as an offensive mind, a guy that scores points, can throw the ball. I think once that happened, and then I think Mississippi State finally was just like, we have to get our shit together and we can't let this dude go to Ole Miss.
Okay.
I mean, and I would love to be wrong because I think he's a stud. And I know that people keep questioning, is he a safety? Is he a receiver? I think he's a good player.
Wait. Exactly what I said back in the summer. Are we there? It happened again. It did.
Well, back in the summer, you're talking about Zach Arnett. Like, I don't think. Fair. I mean, there's video of him saying he decommitted because Mississippi State sucks. Like, that was like during the season. I mean,
but what I said back then was that every recruiting year, there's at least one player. There's always one player. In my experience, I've been doing this for almost 20 years now, covering this team. I've been around Ole Miss sports and following Ole Miss sports since I was born. Every year, Mississippi State has one player in state, even when the culture has changed, the environment has changed, everything about the sport has changed, where high school recruiting, especially from Ole Miss's vantage point, has been de-emphasized. They still have one guy every single recruiting season. They just refuse to let go. They refuse, and they make sure they pay for it. Ole Miss has more resources to pay in the NIL space than State does. So now, where does State then make its headline? Secure Stonka Burnside. I would agree with you. I was going to say, does Ole Miss land him fair or foul? Foul, because that's what I've been consistent in saying since day one, because I thought he'd be that player this year. He'll be the Jeffrey Simmons. And I'll never forget that. Some Ole Miss coaches, I'm not going to name names, but some Ole Miss coaches were just absolutely beside themselves. Veteran coaches.
If they're gone, who cares?
Well, Barney was devastated because he just knew that Jeffrey Simmons was going to be
here's what happened.
We know what happened.
I mean,
yeah, I'm sorry.
Mississippi State missed on A.J. Brown. They missed on Nigel Knott. They pulled all their money into Jeffrey Simmons, and they weren't going to let him get away. Jeffrey Simmons was announcing for Ole Miss up until like 8 minutes before he announced. He walked out of the room, got on the phone with somebody, came back, picked Mississippi State. Everybody knows this by now. This isn't crazy this isn't breaking news, but that's what happened.
But that's what I'm talking about. There's always been one guy. Jeffrey Simmons was that year, and Barney was beside himself. He just knew. And I remember him saying, this has never happened to me before. Because when Barney told you, hey, this kid's coming, you could take it to the bank. and yet Jeffrey Simmons popped for Mississippi State. And I thought when you consider what Mississippi State hasn't gotten this recruiting cycle and the air they're desperately trying to find, they're trying to come up and get some type of good breath of fresh air. Stonka Burnside makes a lot of sense. Who else would they splurge on? Who else are they going to put their money on? JJ Harrell is in the boat. Narell White would make some sense, but Stonka. And so I agree with you, fair or foul.
Yeah,
and I'm not so sure. Okay.
And look, I talked with a national guy last night, and he said that he's buying the hype around Ole Miss getting him. Like he said, the conversations I've had the last 24 hours, I would buy that. Because I was like, are you buying or selling this smoke to Ole Miss? I'm just going with my gut. After the Levy announcement, I was like, you're not hiring a coach for one guy. Like, that's stupid. But it's a perfect fit. Like, Levy's an offensive guy. He knows how to coach offense. He puts up big numbers. Burnside wants to go and be the dude. So
yeah, and he's not going to be that dude here. Not next year. Just not.
I mean,
you can't say it. If Aiden Williams wasn't going to be that dude.
If Ole Miss got Cam Coleman, any of the top wideouts in this class, I don't care who they are. You're not going to be the dude in this offense because of what Ole Miss has coming back. And that's no disrespect to any of those guys. Mm-hmm. It's just the truth.
Yeah. The Cameron Richardson. All right, that really only covers. I mean, that really covers our discussion here.
Can you imagine the meltdown of Cameron Richardson and Stonka Burnside go to Ole Miss?
It would be epic. I mean, but they're really going.
Again, I would love to be wrong.
Hey, with that one, it'll just be consistent with what I thought. But then here I was finally coming around to your end of it. I had gotten there. That's what the question was for. We were finally here on December 18th, 2023. Christmas is around the corner. And I was finally here with you. Go, maybe. Zach, you've been right. That's what I was ready to say. And you turned on me in real time. Crazy. Safety. Look, fair foul. Ole Miss is.
When you see that tarp and that neck beard, you can't turn it down, baby.
Look, as someone who wears tarps, because look, man, us big guys, we got to wear layers, my guy. If we're not to hate ourselves all day, every day. If I catch one glimpse of myself in a mirror, it could be a wrap for the rest of the day. So the garbage bags, I get them. You know, Matt Luke, that's my guy. He's now the Clemson offensive line coach. Look, Matt's a good dude. Should have never been Ole Miss's head coach. And really, I wish somebody would be like, Matt, bro, I get why you wear the tarp. I sympathize. I would wear the tarp. But as someone who would wear the tarp don't look good, you know? But us big guys can't tell us nothing.
You know who the new tarp god is, right?
No.
It's Mike Elko.
Okay. But again, big guy. We wear layers. What it is.
Your brand.
I'm working on it. You know, I'm trying not to be a big guy for the first time in my life, but us big guys, we wear layers. All right. Safety, fair or foul. And there's a reason I asked you this fair or foul and ask it this way, because you've been talking about Brandon Turnage for a while. Fair or foul, Ole Miss has got committed Key Lawrence at safety from Oklahoma and Louis Moore from Louis. I
still don't know.
Louis Moore from Indiana.
He never responded.
And Tamarion McDonald from Tennessee. They're done at safety for the time being. Fair or foul?
Excuse me. I might leave it here.
No, you gotta make a call.
I'd say okay. I'm gonna say foul only because of the specific circumstances around Brandon Turnage. Because I do think Tamarion McDonald is going to play the star position. I think he'll be kind of an outside linebacker. So maybe a safety by definition or on the roster, but I think he's going to play closer to the line of scrimmage. And I do think Turnage could still happen, just solely because he's an Oxford guy and he's coming off an injury. And if I'm being totally honest, I don't think the NIL deal will break the bank. And he's got a relationship with Derek Nix, Pete Golding, tons of people on that staff. So I can see it still happening. But don't hold me to that. I'm not saying, he's going to do it on this day. Like, I don't know. But I do think it could still be a possibility just for some depth. And because of the other safeties and secondary pieces that have been added, he won't be thrust into like, hey, you're coming, like, we need you to start doing stuff now because he's coming off the injury. So I could see it still happening. Not guaranteeing that, but it could still happen.
Well, here's where I'm kind of at with it. I think they're done for the time being
Sure.
unless we learn something between now and next Monday, which is Christmas, on John Saunders and Dejon Anthony. They can both come back if they want to. Now, I think John Saunders is coming back. He hadn't announced anything. I think he's coming back. Dejon Anthony, I don't know. But if both of them come back, then where does Brandon Turnage play if he's not going to convert to linebacker like Ladarius Tennyson did? And does that really, what does that provide you? Right? Because look at the linebacker recruiting they've done. And you've mentioned how it's strength of position for them now, which is just unheard of, it seems like, especially in modern Ole Miss football recruiting. But linebackers are strength of it. So I don't know. I think it all is kind of contingent on whether or not Dejon Anthony and or John Saunders Jr. makes a decision pretty quickly. And I don't think a decision necessarily is coming pretty quickly. I guess a deadline is coming, for the NFL, but I don't think we're going to really see a ton of movement there unless a name pops up, like because DeCamerion Richardson just popped up. We started hearing it. So something could pop up after we get done recording at safety or any number of these positions where we think it might be pretty settled for the time being, like wide receiver. But for now, that is not a pressing spot for them. It's just not anymore. Once you got done,
Yeah.
I didn't think they expect, because actually this time last week, no, not this time last week, but the buy or sell that Ole Miss would secure or sweep Walter Nolen, Princely, Uman Minyelin, and Tyler Barrett, and you said 2 out of 3, and yet they swept them. So
I know.
I mean, they swept them, and that's not to in any way be like, oh, you got that right. He didn't get that wrong. It's just this shit is completely unpredictable. What we know is they've got numbers at safety right now that could change if Dejon Anthony or John Saunders do decide not to come back, and then Brandon Turnage becomes more of a target, or someone else more of a target that they really want to put the full court press on to get something done. So
Yeah.
it's been an incredible couple days. Ole Miss basketball is 10-0 for just the
Yeah.
fourth time, I think, in program history.
Ole
Everything's
Miss
coming
is
up on
one
this
of,
Rebel, man.
I think, one of 3 athletic institutions to have an undefeated basketball team and a football team with 10 or more wins.
See, just a
Wow.
different time, man. It's a different time. So fair or foul, Ole Miss wins the Natty in 2024. Where are you? Where are you? Oh my God.
Too early to tell. Got to get them all on campus.
Yeah, baby.
Got to see what they do against MTSU in September, and then we'll go from
Okay.
there.
Come on. Come on. They really set up their non-con really well. The fact they don't have Alabama, Georgia at home doesn't scare me. LSU on the road doesn't scare me. The floor is 10-2.
Oklahoma and Georgia at home is big.
Yeah, I'm scared of Oklahoma.
LSU without Jaden Daniels, that'll be fun at Death Valley. And
State
then
with KJ Jefferson coming to the vault.
they
I'm just joking.
still don't have a quarterback.
I really think it's going to be KJ Jefferson. I'm not making that up. But this is not a state podcast. We're past that. They can keep talking about our podcast and Ole Miss stuff on their message boards and their podcast, but we shall not do that. We shall continue to talk about Ole Miss's massive, massive portal haul. I think ranked right now, according to On3, is the number 3 class. According to 247, they're number 1, and Rivals doesn't have a national database. So it is right now coming up all things Ole Miss as we round the turn for the Christmas season. What are you getting for Christmas, man? You ask for anything? What's Santa bringing you before we get out of here? What do you want?
Probably just get some golf balls.
Nothing fun.
Well, actually, no. My wife was kind enough to get tickets for the Peach Bowl.
Awesome. There you go.
So she wanted to go. Nice little weekend away from the kids. Because I was going to go in a work capacity, and she said, "No, let's go, and so you can relax and enjoy it." And so,
well, I'm going in a work capacity, but I also could be bringing my family, and
I'll see you there then.
Yeah, we could have another big, grand, wonderful meeting in person where you video it without my consent.
Yeah, if you see me around town, come up and say hey. You know, I did have some people when I was at the Tennessee game a couple years ago. And look, I apologize. There were some people that were trying to say hey, but my wife was 8 months pregnant, and people were throwing beer bottles and debris So I was trying to get her out of the stadium. So if you did try to say hello at that point or any other time in Oxford, I promise I am not ignoring you. I'm either, on my phone or trying to escort my pregnant
that's not
wife.
true. He's a diva. He's
No,
getting
if you
all
see,
these recruiting predictions correct, and all of a sudden he thinks he's hot. He's hot shit. He's gotten bigger than his britches. Got to bring
yeah,
him
if
down
you
a peg or two.
yeah, you see me in Atlanta, come say hey, we'll chat, we'll talk about, you know, anything you want.
Ole Miss
We can
recruiting,
talk.
Zach. They want to talk Ole Miss recruiting.
We can talk about Bosch. Started watching Bosch on Amazon. Big
No,
fan.
that's not interesting. Have
Slow
you started?
Horses on Apple TV.
Have you started did you put a GPS tracker on Walter Nolen's Tahoe?
Is that what he drives?
I don't know. That's kind
We
of like a
got
gotcha question. I'm just saying
we got
that
something
you need to be
that
watching
see. Look, Ben,
planes.
that's an in because I drive a Tahoe, so me and Walter could talk about Tahoe driving.
There you go. I drive a
Yeah,
Jeep, and I still don't understand why every Jeep I pass by they have like rubber ducks in their
that's the
dashboard.
thing.
I don't
My
understand
parents,
what that means.
my parents have it in their Jeep. I don't
Yeah,
get
I'm not doing that.
do the Jeep wave.
Is that but that looks dirty. This has been another edition of Hashtag Not Committed on this Monday, December 18th, 2023. I'm Ben Garrett at Spirit Ben on Twitter. He's Zach Berry at Zach_Berry. For full coverage of Ole Miss's portal exploits and all things Ole Miss recruiting, all things Ole Miss athletics, period, head on over to the Ole Miss Spirit, OleMissSpirit.com, and affiliate on 3 and sign up today with a low cost of $1 and half off an annual sub. That's $50 on what is usually $109. So head on over to the Ole Miss Spirit, OleMissSpirit.com, and affiliate on 3. Subscribe to this podcast, Talk of Champions, by simply searching it wherever you get your podcast and leave a 5-star review. And Zach desperately wants to say something before we get out of here. So Zach, the floor is yours, my friend.
If you don't want to talk about television or film or recruiting, what you could talk to me about is Drew Moak and USA Benefits Group. I could probably point you in the direction of Drew. He will be in Atlanta. If you need to talk about cutting your health insurance premiums by as much as 20-30%, who wouldn't want to do that? So Drew, the folks at USA Benefits Group, will handle all of that. You can give him a call at 601-953-8449. Licensed in 7 states, including the state of Mississippi. Works with the nation's second largest health insurance brokerage. Access to 35 different carriers. He can help you with any and all of your health insurance needs. Regular health plans, life insurance, dental, vision, Medicare, all of that. He's got you covered. So if you're not in Atlanta, you don't see Drew, you can call him, or you can go to their website, usabg.com/DMOAK, and get your free quote today.
He's Zach Berry. I'm Ben Garrett. Go to the Ole Miss Spirit, OleMissSpirit.com, affiliate on 3. Real quick, Walter Nolen Day. We're saying it is. Is this Walter Nolen Day, or should we just say we're just on Walter Nolen watch? I don't want to put us in. I don't want to paint. I don't want to put baby in a corner.
I'd say Walter Nolen watch for sure.
All
right. Maybe today, maybe Tuesday. I don't think he gets past that.
Nothing has changed in my mind from what I reported on Saturday that I think I thought Juice Wells was going to commit on Sunday, and Walter Nolen wasn't going to be far behind. I still hold to that. But hey, if you need Mark Schlabach to be the one to tell you, I understand that completely, because who would want to listen to this anyway? Thank you, buddy. See you soon.
See ya.